Hello, and welcome to this session in which we will look at the cost volume profit analysis in an application format using as well the contribution margin and the contribution margin ratio, which are integral part of the cost volume profit analysis. And remember, you have to really understand the contribution margin income statement, which is sales minus variable cost, which is sales minus variable cost gives you the contribution margin minus fixed cost. So it's critical, whether you are a student or a CPA candidate or a CMA candidate, that you understand the contribution margin income statement that's right here. We'll take sales and we'll deduct from the sales variable cost. Then that's going to give us contribution margin. Then we deduct fixed cost. Simply put, we separate the cost into a fixed component and a variable component. Now, we were working in the prior session with Atom Electronics Retailer, which is Atom selling tablets. The selling price for each tablet is $500. The variable cost or the variable expense, remember whether I said variable cost or variable expense, they mean the same thing. What matters is it's a variable behavior. 500, which is the selling price minus the variable cost, gives us the contribution margin. Now, if you want to copy this numbers down, because I'm going to be using this example to work what-if analysis. Then the total sales for this example is 500 units, 500 tablets. Total sales is 250,000, which is 500 tablets times the selling price of 500,000. Variable expense is 500 units times $300, which is 150. Sales minus variable expense will give us the contribution margin, minus the fixed cost will give us the net operating income, or simply it might be in your textbook as shown as profit. The percentage is the contribution margin is 40%, which is taken 200 divided by 500, which is the contribution margin, divided by sales, or you can take the total contribution margin 100,000 divided by 250. Now we're going to work a few examples to see what would happen to the profit if we change any of these components. And this is what we mean by cost volume profit analysis. Let's assume we want to find out the profit impact if Atom can increase unit sales from 500, which is the current status, to 540. And how would Atom's going to do so? Well, one of the salespersons suggested, let's increase monthly advertising by 10,000. So let's increase monthly advertising. Let's have more ads on Facebook and YouTube where people can see our product. And as a result, we're going to increase sales by 40 units. The question is, should we go with this option? Well, we have to find out what happened. Well, here's what happens. We're going to increase sales by 40 additional units. Each unit will contribute $200. As a result, we're going to have an increase in contribution margin of $8,000. Well, the fixed cost, which is the advertising component, will increase by 10. So we're going to have a plus 8 minus 10. Is this a good deal? No, overall, it's going to be negative 2,000. Now, again, from a business perspective, we're dealing strictly from numbers. Now, maybe advertising, maybe it did not increase our sales this month. Maybe it will increase sales next month. Maybe advertising is going to give us some brand name, which is a value we cannot record yet. But based on the numbers, strictly on the numbers, we will reject this offer. We're going to tell them, look, find maybe a better way to advertise so we can increase by more than 40 units. And this is the income statement format. Sales, the new sales will be 270,000. The new variable expense is 162. And basically what we're doing here is we're taking 540 units times 500, 540 units times 300. That's what's given us the number. Sales minus variable expense will give us the contribution margin. And we have to increase, remember, we have to increase fixed expense, which is the monthly advertising budget, by 10,000. As a result, we're going to be less off 10,000. So our profit goes from 20,000 to 18,000, strictly on numbers. Thank you very much. That's not a good deal. Let's take a look at another scenario. Let's assume we want to find out what would be the profit if Atom can use higher quality material, basically a better processing unit. And by doing so, we're going to increase the variable expense by $10. So remember, the variable expense was 300. Now the variable expense will be 310. Maybe we'll add some sort of a cover that comes with the tablet. I don't know. We're just going to add something to it. And as a result, this additional feature, it's going to give us an additional 80,000, not 80, an additional 80 unit in sales. What should we undertake this option or should we pass? That's the question. Well, let's take a look at what we have. Well, what's going to happen to our sales? Well, our sales is going to increase by how much? Well, we're going to be increasing sales by 80 units, 80 times $500 per unit, the selling price. We're going to increase sales by $40,000. What's going to happen to our variable expense? Well, variable expense, well, we have an additional 80 units. That's going to be times 310. And the 500 unit, the old 500 unit, we'll have to increase them by $10 each. So all in all, total variable expense will increase by $29,800. Well, so far, if we look at this, increase in sales is 40,000, increase in variable expense is 28,900. We can compute what's the increase in the contribution margin by taking the difference between those two figures, and the difference is 10,200. 10,200. So the difference is a net increase of 10,200. Is this a good deal? And the answer is yes. It looks like it's a good idea. Let's add a feature to that tablet by adding some feature to it, some what I meant by raw material here, top quality raw material, some feature, maybe increasing the speed of the tablet, the processing unit. And if you want to see this from a contribution margin income statement, it's always good to know this. So basically your sales is 290 less variable expense is 179,800. Again, here we're assuming 580 units. And notice your contribution margin went up by 10,200. Fixed cost is the same, and that 10,200 will float to the bottom. And as a result, you will have an additional 10,200 in net operating income. And that's not a bad deal. We should go with this. Let's take a look at this scenario. What is the profit if Adam does the following? They cut the selling price by $20. So we're going to reduce the price from 500 minus 20. The new price is 480. Increase the advertising budget by 15,000. And as a result, we think sales could go from 500 to 650. Is this a good deal? Well, we have to see what if. Basically, what if this happened, what would happen? First, let's start with sales. Sales, we're going to have 650 unit times 480. We're going to have sales of 312. So we're going to increase sales by 62,000. Always we'll comparing to this data. Variable expense, it's going to stay the same, 650 times 300 unit. It's going to increase by it's going to increase to 195, which is an increase of 45. Now, if we look at the sales minus the contribution margin, we will see that our contribution margin will increase overall by 17K. Now, our fixed cost, our advertising fixed cost will increase by 15. Well, that's a negative. Those are positive. Well, overall, we're going to have a net increase of 2,000. Not bad. Let's take a look at our contribution margin income statement. This is what it looks like. Sales minus variable expenses. Again, I keep repeating this because the goal of my courses is to make sure you understand. So by repeating, it will help. Sales minus variable expense gives you the contribution margin, minus fixed expenses, which is an increase of 15,000, will give us 22,000, a $2,000 increase in net operating profit. Now, you might see those examples, maybe not in an exercise or in a multiple choice format. So be quick. Make sure you know the formula and run through it real quick. Let's look at this scenario. What's the profit impact if Adam pays $15 sales commission? So rather than paying flat salary, Adam says, I'm going to use motivation. I'm going to motivate my employees and tell them, look, rather than paying you a salary, specifically salespeople, I'm going to give you $15 per unit. Right now, I'm paying them $6,000 per month. And I think by doing so, I'm going to motivate them. And as a result, we're going to increase sales from 500 to 750. Is this a good decision? Well, we're going to have to run through the numbers. Sales would increase to 287,500, which is 575 unit times 500 per unit. Variable expenses will increase to 181,125. Now, we see that the new contribution margin is 106,375, which is 6,375 more the current contribution margin. But the good thing about this is we are going to deduct 6,000 from our fixed expenses. Our fixed expenses used to be 80,000. Now our fixed expenses are 74. So our new profit is 32,375, while the old profit, the current option, is 20,000. So simply put, overall, we increased profit by increasing contribution margin 6,375 plus savings of 6,000 by paying commission rather than flat salary. As a result, we increase net profit by 12,375, and this looks like the best option thus far. Again, knowing how to motivate employees is extremely important. If you could motivate them to sell more, the company will benefit.